and hopefully you all will have some questions when we get done, because I think that's really the most important part. You know, starting out on the positive side, you know, some things that'll get you hired, and Miss Allison can kind of chime in too. You know, she's had a lot of experience with, you know, managing people, hiring people, and you know, and the unfortunate circumstance of maybe firing people, and that's not good. It's not good for anybody. It's not enjoyable. It's not something that you know, you want to happen on either side. It's unfortunate. But starting out, things that'll get you hired. One thing that we always look for is someone who knows how to present themselves. You know, in all ways. You know, all the way from the way that they dress, the way that they look at you in the eye when they talk to you. You all are in a generation where texting is what you do. You know, you don't call your friends anymore to speak to them on the phone. You text with them. I mean, I do it too now, but you know, when I was your age, we didn't have texting, so we called our friends on the phone, and I usually ended up getting in trouble for it, talking to my friends late at night. I would do it under the bed covers, so my dad would hear me. But you know, I think being in this texting culture now, you know, we've lost somehow that ability to look at people, you know, and knowing how to articulate oneself. And so when you're going for a job interview, that's one of the most important things, is knowing how to articulate yourself, express yourself, and, you know, sell yourself and your qualities. So.
Well, you brought up a good point I want to kind of talk about a little bit, and that's social media. And I'm sure you guys have heard this a gazillion times, but it is so true. Be so careful what you put out there on the internet, guys, because once it's out, even if it's Snapchat and you think it's gone, and I'm telling you, it never ever goes away. You can use social media to your benefit to help get you hired, you know, by putting positive things up there, things you're involved in, your volunteer service, your friends from school. I mean, you can use it and have fun, but don't put the pictures that 10 years from now you'll go, oh my God, what was I thinking? Yeah. Because I promise you, when you submit a resume somewhere, the very first thing that company is going to do is look up your social media profiles.
That's what I do.
That's the first thing. That's even if I mention a name in conversation and Amber doesn't know the person, the first thing she'll do is look up to see if she recognizes. I mean,
because most people aren't private either.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So it's so, and I know you think we're old and we're just saying this and you've heard it a million times, but I promise you that really happens out there. Two other things I would say as far as preparing yourself for an interview. Two of the most important skills or classes that you should take before you go into your professional lives is keyboarding and public speaking. I will tell you that I put off, when I was in college, I put off Speech 101 until my very last semester of my senior year because I was petrified.
I was too, completely.
Seriously.
Like, to the point of crying outside the school door at UT. Yes.
But I'm telling you, if you can't talk to people, and not only talk to people, but if you can't adjust your presentation to the audience you're speaking to, you know, if you're interviewing for a job and it's someone fun and bubbly, you're going to present yourself one way. If it's someone who's very conservative and very staunch, you're going to present yourself a completely different way. You learn how to do that in those public speaking classes. And then you have to flex the muscles. You got to get out there and you got to do it. Whether it's speaking in front of a pep rally or speaking at graduation or in front of one of your clubs, the more you do it, the more comfortable it gets, and it becomes a lot less frightening, I promise.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. That's exactly true. The social media thing, though.
Huge.
I mean, that's huge. And when you get in college, you know, people may post pictures of you, you know, at a social gathering or something like that, or, you know, whatever you do after high school. It may not be college, but just out, you know, with your friends. Be careful of what they're posting, you know.
Turn your tagging off. I mean, really, turn the ability for other people to tag you off.
Yes, that's a good.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Can I throw something in with that?
Yes.
I don't mean to hijack your presentation. I had just sent a message a while back to Ms. Harris because the general who's over security clearances for the whole government shebang has said that they are including in future background investigations that they are including social media.
Yeah.
So if you've got pictures of you with a gas mask and a bomb,
That's not good.
you're toast.
Yeah.
I mean, in more ways than one.
Right.
Yeah, and you may think it's silly, it
Right.
may just be a joke, and 9 times out of 10, it is. It's just you being silly, not thinking.
Yeah.
But, you have to think about who else could see this, outside of your friends group. Who could see this and who could judge you based upon
And
that.
you might not be there to be able to explain to them, well, wait a minute, I can tell you what happened. I mean, you may not have the opportunity to ever go in and
You
explain.
probably won't even get called.
Exactly.
Yeah. So those are very, very important things to remember. Things that are more negative. Okay, so you've got the job now, and what's something that could get you in trouble, get you under disciplinary action in some way, or get you fired? There are several instances or examples that I could share, but I guess I'm just going to be more general with it and just say, be careful, be mindful of what you're doing on company equipment or whoever you're working for. That computer belongs to that company or that city or whoever it is you're working for. If they give you a phone to utilize, don't be on Facebook on that phone. Don't be on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever else is out there on that phone. That's not your equipment to utilize. It's that company or that city's equipment. It's their property. So if you're going to be doing something like that, you need to make for sure you do it on your own time. And even then, be careful, because that really is something it's very easy to catch that. There are IT people that's their job, is to monitor you. And that'll get you in trouble, big time. And you don't want that reputation either.
Even if other people are doing it, well, they're doing it, so I did it. Be smarter than that, because, they might not get caught, but you might, so.
Don't give people a reason to fire you, and that's a good point. Just because somebody else might be doing it, that doesn't mean that, you're not going to get caught for doing it. And it doesn't help if you're getting in trouble for it and you say, well, so-and-so over here, my superior's doing it too, well, they'll get in trouble too. And, and if and when you are in a position of being, managing someone, always remember it's important. You're not exempt from the rules. You're in fact held to a higher standard than your employees. I always try to remember that. I'm very careful. I carry 2 phones. Everybody makes fun of me, but I want to be so very careful. I mean, I don't even call my mother on my city phone, and that's something that you could defend. But I always remember other people are looking at you, and you've always got to be a good example.
Do y'all know what the Peter Principle is? Ever heard of the Peter Principle? Rising to your highest level of incompetence. Does that make sense to everybody? You get promoted to the point where you're not smart enough to do the job, or you're not skilled enough to do the job. I will tell you that one of the worst cases I had was a gal who worked for me who came in the secretarial position and was promoted and trained and learned a lot and was doing great, and we kept giving her opportunities and she was performing well, and we promoted her eventually into a position that either she was not capable of fulfilling or she actively chose not to fulfill. And instead of coming to us and saying, look, this is over my head, I'm not comfortable, I don't know what I'm doing, I need help, anything, she was actually falsifying documents and reports about work that she was supposedly doing out in the community that was very easy to verify whether or not it was being done. It was a matter of 2 or 3 phone calls, and work that you as the manager think has been done has not been done, and your employee's been lying to you the whole time. So don't ever be afraid that if you're out of your comfort zone or you don't understand something, your boss 9 times out of 10 would much rather you go to them and say, look, I know you explained this to me, but I'm just not understanding and I want to do a good job. And be honest with them. There's no shame in that. I mean, that's how we learn, and we're always learning.
Always.
I mean, seriously, and if you're not, you're not really living. So I think that's really important. Promotion is a great thing, but sometimes it it can be a scary thing too, especially if you don't handle it well.
Yeah,
So.
if you don't have the humility that it takes to admit,
Exactly.
I need help with this, and that's not an easy thing to say, you know, but being humble goes a long way in everything that you do. Always stay humble, you know.
I know y'all probably do group projects and hate them. Yes?
Yes.
I know you do, because I was there and I hated them too.
I love it.
Well, I hated them because I always ended up doing all the work and then nobody else did any. How many of you are the person who does all the work? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So, how many are the people who let the other people do the work? Yeah, see, that's not Patrick. What I will tell you is there's a reason they make you do these group projects. When you get into a work environment, you hear about teamwork and you think it's just a catchphrase and you play it off as being a trend or the biggest thing. I'm telling you, if you can't work in a team and you can't fill somebody else's weaknesses and admit and use your strengths to better the other people on your team, admit your own weaknesses and let them help you, you won't function well for an employer. Unless you're sitting behind a cubicle doing numbers, staring at a computer all day and you don't have to interact with anybody. But even then, you know, you've always got a superior. There's a reason you're doing those group projects. You're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with responsibilities, you're learning how to get your point across, how to step back when you need to step back. That stuff's really important and it'll serve you well.
And sometimes you are in life the one that gets stuck doing all the
Yes.
work. I mean, it just happens. Sometimes you're not, sometimes you are. And so that teaches you how to deal with that feeling and that frustration and how to get through it, you know, and how to use that to your benefit and everybody else's too. And if you can't work with people, then you're not going to function well.
And going back to getting hired, one other thing, and I'm kind of a stickler on this, and I might be harder than some people, but if I get a cover letter and it has a typo in it, or has a word misspelled, or has poor punctuation, I don't even look at the resume. Seriously, if every paragraph begins with I don't care. I want to know what you can do for me. I want you to tell me why I'm going to benefit from hiring you. And if you can't write a sentence and you can't submit a letter without typos, I have no reason to look at your
Or
resume.
you can't spell Lenore.
Oh,
That is
seriously.
my problem, yes.
Hey, but
Do
in all
not.
fairness, they got the sign on the interstate wrong.
I know, but that was the state of Tennessee.
You're right.
I've seen that many times over
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
L-E-N-I-O-R.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's
yes.
bad.
It's not like General William Lenore, which was, well, I guess that was, it's L-E-N-O-I-R. But anyway,
But seriously, have somebody else, I mean,
pay attention.
if I do a document that I've put a lot of work in on, I know what it's supposed to say, so I can't proof my own stuff. I'll give it to Amber or I'll give it to somebody else, say just kind of eyeball this and see if I missed anything, because they're looking at it with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to have somebody look at your resume or your cover letter or give you advice on how to change it. And really, I know you think English classes are, you don't need them, but you do. I mean, I have a sophomore here and he just, I know how to read, why do I have to read? Well, because you're learning while you're reading. But it's the same thing with English classes. You're learning how to compose a sentence. You're learning how to speak and come across as an intelligent human being, and that's
How to
important.
logically,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
express yourself.
Yeah.
English was my favorite. Miss Towns. Don't listen,
What else? Do y'all have any questions
Yeah.
on anything we've talked about, or are we boring you to death? Come on, Patrick, I'll put you on the spot. Think of something clever. How's your brother doing, by the way? Have you heard from him?
He's doing pretty good.
Is he?
Yeah.
He just left for the Army.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we haven't really heard from him yet, but I think he wrote a letter that's on his way.
Well, good. Any other football players in the room? Are you the only one? Oh, there. Hi.
John,
They're used to seeing these Booster
questions?
Club mom, not talking in front of the class mom.
Come on, give us some
Somebody's got
questions.
something. What kind of fields are y'all interested in? What kind of work do you want to do? Animation? Awesome. Huge growing field. Pellissippi has a wonderful program for that now, by the way. My son's in it. Yeah, real good program. Yes.
What did you guys major in?
I was political science and public administration.
Business administration and marketing. And a little bit of information technology as a minor in graduate school as well, which has served me well. That's another thing. If y'all don't operate a computer well and technology well, you'll be really behind as well. So, but I think y'all get more of that than we ever did, and at least I ever did. I didn't touch a computer until I went to college. So, what other fields?
Business management.
Say again?
Business management.
Business management? You have a particular area you want to go into there, or a particular industry?
Not yet.
Okay, that's okay. You might change your mind 6 times anyway, so that's allowed. What else?
Is anybody interested in trade school or anything like that?
And I was engineering.
Engineering?
Oh, that's, yeah,
Yep,
that's a lucrative field, always.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just have good study habits leaving here, because that's
Because
one
if
of those.
you don't,
Yeah.
I'll give it my husband example. Let me just, he would die if he knew that I was telling this story. So my husband, Michael, he went to Loudon, he graduated from Loudon, same
Well,
year I
that's the
graduated
problem.
from here. That might be the problem. He never really had to open a book all the way through school. Very
You went
smart, not like me. I actually had to like focus and study and work, you know, but he never really had to do all that. So he decides I'm gonna major in civil engineering at the University of Tennessee. I didn't know him during this time. I like to think that I would have kept him more on task. But, you know, since he did not have good study habits, he completely flunked out, you know, the first semester. Well, actually, it
It's easy
took an
to do.
entire year to flunk out.
Yeah.
He just became so overwhelmed, I think, by it all, because, you know, you like to think the first 2 years are just weed out courses. It's simple, but in engineering, it's not like that. I mean, you go in and like, whatever, calculus, whatever, but it's very, very difficult. He actually went back while he was working full-time 6 days a week at an engineering firm and finished his civil engineering degree at the age of 31. So you don't want to do that. It's not fun. So focus from the start. So.
Or if you're not ready to go to college yet, and your parents might kill me for saying this, but I mean, seriously, when I went to college, and now don't tell my kids this, those of you who know my sons, don't tell them this. When I went to college, I completed my freshman year of college with my senior year of high school, so I was a year ahead. And then I went away to college when I graduated. And when I first went away to school, I flunked out. I flunked out when I was 19. I didn't go back to school until I was 25, 26. And by the time I went back, I went because I wanted to go, I was paying for it, and I went from flunking out to not only getting A's, but getting the highest A's in the class, because if I didn't, I was mad at myself. So there's nothing carved in stone that if you don't feel ready to do that yet, that you can't do it later. But it is harder to do it later, I will say, because you have more things going on in
More
your life.
other
and-
responsibilities,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
to keep up with.
I thought of something else I was going to say about hiring, and I've lost it. So take a question while I think.
Well, punctuality is one thing I was going to say about getting hired. You know, I always look for people that are at least 10 to 15 minutes early. You know, they're sitting there with their, you know, leather, what do you call those
Portfolio.
things? Portfolios, you know, just sitting there, you know, maybe a blank portfolio. There may be nothing on it, but you look serious. You look like you're ready to perform. You're serious about getting this job, and being punctual is part of that. 10 to 15 minutes early. You've always got to do that. So.
I just gave Amber a couple of resumes from people that I'm thinking about hiring. And at the top of the resumes, the 2 things she will see noted are what time they arrived and how they were dressed, how they looked, were they professional. Those are the first 2 things you notice. Something I was going to point out, when you do get a job, if you can, 2 things actually. Remind me about first jobs, in case I lose it again.
Okay.
First jobs. If you do get a job, make yourself as indispensable as possible to your boss. I mean, if you can really, not necessarily make your boss dependent on you, but make your boss know that he or she can count on you and that you're the go-to person, and you'll, even if it's not your job, you'll get it done. That goes a long, long way in a workplace, especially when promotions come up and that sort of thing. And likewise, mentor those below you. If you are mid-level and you've got new people coming on, be a mentor to those people. Teach them what you know. Share your information with them. I've always kind of operated from the platform of, if I can train my replacement, I've done a good job. Now, a lot of people are threatened by that, especially women, unfortunately. It's true. I don't know why, but if you can teach somebody and train somebody to do what you do, you're growing them, you're growing the business, you're kind of sharing the knowledge, sharing the
Don't be
wealth.
so selfish that
No.
you know, cut off the nose of the business.
Yeah.
So,
One last thing I'll say is, do any of you have jobs now? Wow, that's great. First jobs are just as important as the most professional job you will ever have, because you're learning basic skills that you will use all your life. You're learning how to interact with people. I will tell you, my very first job was at a movie theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I met Terry Bradshaw at the concession stand one day. And he is a big old jerk in real life. I will just tell you, he is. He's mean and he's a bully. Oh, he was awful.
write that down.
He was mine. I lived in Pittsburgh. He was mine too. I was so
I had
disappointed.
his jersey in
But
school.
that taught me I mean, I had to deal with him, even though he was being a jerk, and he could get away with it because he was who he was. I had to deal with him in a manner where, he was right, even though he was being belligerent and being a big old jerk. I had to deal with him as he was the customer, he's always right, and just kind of take my feelings and stuff them. But those kind of experiences, I will never forget that experience as long as I live. My very first job, and I'm older than she is, so that's a long time ago. You learn with everything you're doing. Your first job, I'm telling you, you will take things from this all through your career, and you'll have learning opportunities that will either serve you well or not.
Did you want to ask something?
I
Stan?
do. Will you tell them, you said you note on the resume what time they arrived and what they were wearing. And we've been talking about that. We're going to talk about it more next week. Will you share with them what some of your applicants are wearing?
Yeah, and this will change depending on industry. Like if you go into animation, you're going to be able to be a little more expressive and a little more funky. And that's,
Right.
if you're going in for a corporate position, obviously you're going to have to be more conservative, more professional. So a lot of it depends upon the industry you're going into. I wasn't looking for suits. I wasn't looking for, anything fancy. I was looking for, are they neat? Did they think about how I had one guy come in a pair of ripped blue jeans and a dirty t-shirt. Now, why on earth? He's going to be dealing with the public in the event center, groups of 1,000 people. I'm going to hire a guy who shows up in ripped t-shirt.
You shouldn't wear that to any interview.
No
matter what the job. ever.
I couldn't believe it.
No
But,
holes, no
just,
holes.
nice slacks, a nice top, a jacket's great. You don't have to do, as long as you're neat, as long as you don't look like you just rolled out of bed or under the car
And clean,
cleaning the.
and clean.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then I would just note if they were on time or if they were early. I like them to be a few minutes early as well. I had 2 people show up 15 to 20 minutes late. I interviewed them just because they were there and I needed to document it.
The interview is the best they'll ever be.
Yeah,
That's the truth. Is that not a generalization that you can
you're
make
right though.
safely?
Absolutely.
You would think it
Yeah.
is. You would hope it is.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're trying to put your best foot forward.
It's like
and
a
if
first
that,
date, right?
Right,
There you go.
exactly. A few minutes down the road, you get the real person.
Yeah, exactly. Just wait, Amber. She's my boss, by the way, if y'all haven't figured that out. One other thing I'll say too is lots of times you go into an interview, and I had the reverse of this situation, the same guy in the ripped jeans. You go into an interview, and the person interviewing you does all the talking. They tell you about the company, they tell you about themselves, they tell you about their kids, and you're just sitting, and you're just sitting, and you're just sitting. I will tell you, 2 jobs that I've had in my past, I've gotten because I sat and I listened. And because that person left that interview feeling like they just had the best conversation they've ever had, because they had the conversation with themselves. Truly, that happens. If you need to know how to read, that goes back to reading your audience. If your potential employer is going to sit there and talk, let them. If they ask you a question, answer the question. But I had an employee, or a potential employee, who was interviewing for this round of jobs come in. It was the same guy in the ripped jeans and the dirty t-shirt, who literally, I think I noted on his thing, literally did not stop talking for the first 20 minutes. Did not stop talking.
That's a long time.
I mean, literally, and I know the guy. I heard about his family, I heard about his kids, I heard about his job, I heard about why he's losing his job. Never one question about the event center, never one question about the position, never anything about what he was interviewing for. He talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. It was excruciating. But if the person hiring does that, just listen to him.
Right.
Seriously. And they'll think you're just fabulous because they just had a wonderful conversation. So it's strange how that works, but it does.
It just means that they love themselves.
They do. And you allowed them to love themselves.
So they feel good about it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, what else? Questions? No? Have we inspired you? No.
Turn your cell phones off. When you go
Yes.
into an interview, turn your cell phone off. Actually, when you walk in the door of the building that you're going to be interviewed, turn your phone off. So it doesn't make you look, more professional or like you have a lot of demands on you or a busier person if you're sitting there on your phone like this. It looks like you don't care enough about the moment that you're in, or you don't care enough about the job that you're about to interview for to look away from your phone. Just sit there quietly.
Unless you're a baby doctor,
There you go.
you don't need
Right,
to,
exactly.
you know.
And that could
Yeah.
be, I don't know, but,
That's right.
That would be funny though, if you were like, could you turn that off? And I'm like, well, I'm a baby
Baby doctor.
I've got to go deliver a baby. That would be my luck. But
Hey, Amber, when you were talking about I know you didn't get specific about the firing instances, but of course without naming any names or any, what specifically happened? Like something was flagged on the city cell phone, so then what are the steps then? Is it just automatically they're terminated?
it was pretty instant. It all happened very fast. It was flagged, it was brought to our attention, and we called the person in, and at first they didn't admit it. I think that's another thing. Always be honest. If you mess up, if you do something wrong, be honest about it. That's the first thing. So he wasn't honest, but then he came out about it and admitted it, and so we had to take that step, which is it's not an enjoyable thing.
No, at all.
For anybody, it's very awkward. And it's not supposed to be. If you enjoy that, there's probably something not right with you.
Do y'all have a code of conduct that city employees have to sign?
We do.
Okay.
We do, yeah. Code of ethics for everybody in the city government.
So technically.
And we also have our policies and procedures manual
Right.
that is signed off on, that has all of our policies.
Technically, if you sign a code of ethics, then you could even go back to just something they post on Facebook on the weekend and say, we have a problem
You
here.
could, and actually we just now updated our IT policy to become even more comprehensive than it was.
Okay.
Our policy was a little outdated. It's been revised probably about 3 or 4 times since I've been there, because we're trying to keep up with the latest, technology. It seems like every 2 years there's something new out there. So yeah, always remember what you're signing, and what you're agreeing to. If you feel like you can't agree to that, then maybe you shouldn't work there.
And that's another thing too, especially in public positions like Amber's in, and when I was with the chamber, and I guess even the position I'm in now, you become the face of the organization that you're representing. So she does manage the city. She is the face of Lenore City. I do manage the event center. When people think of the event center, they'll think of me. I'm the face of that organization. And if you're out in public, even if you're off the clock,
Yeah.
and I'm out in public acting a fool, cursing or drinking or whatever it is that I shouldn't be doing, in excess, that stuff, it not only makes me look bad, it makes the entity I work for look bad.
you're never really off the
Exactly.
clock. When you work for a public entity,
Yeah.
you're never off the clock. Even if you're an hourly employee, you're never off the clock. People out there in the public
They know
that
you.
know you, they know you. And
In
they
the
know.
grocery store, in the
Yes.
restaurants, yep.